E aí, pessoal, beleza? Hoje a gente está aqui numa infraestrutura aqui bem melhor do que aquela conversa de bar que a gente teve, né? Porque aquilo lá foi, na verdade, bem improvisado, assim, a gente estava conversando e saiu de uma maneira bem despretensiosa e formal, né? E a galera curtiu bastante. E hoje a gente está aqui para falar mais sobre o processo seletivo da Flatirons e como que funcionam mesmo, né? Cada um cada uma das etapas do processo, quais são os tipos de projeto que a gente trabalha, quais são os tipos de profissional que a gente busca e como que você pode conseguir aí entrar pro nosso time e ganhar em dólares, né? Que é o sonho aí da galera que sabe que segue o job da gringa, né? So, I'm here with Mike today. Thanks for your time, Mike.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I love your accent. I still have no idea what you're saying, but very happy to be here.
That's always good things about you. Okay, so I have some comments here, some questions here that people send to me.
Okay.
They since the first video we viralized and a lot of people watch it and like it and. I received really good feedbacks about
Awesome.
you.
Very glad to hear.
Brazilian people really like you because you are a funny person, you know, like a person that is open to you know, like do jokes and so on. You're not like the code American that people think American are, you know.
I like to joke around. I like to have fun. We work hard at Flatirons, but I think we also have a good time.
Yeah, we do. And yeah, so let's talk more about the interview process. What are the open positions that we have nowadays? What you are looking for, and do you have plans to hire more Brazilian people?
Yeah, we have a lot of open positions right now. So first of all, in terms of hiring in Brazil, we started off. Flatiron started off in LATAM and Colombia, and we tried for a long time to just stay in Colombia. That did not work so well. Colombia is a small country, but also during COVID, it became very difficult to maintain that, and so we expanded to Brazil. Now we have a decent sized Brazilian team, and we definitely want to keep growing in Brazil for sure. So right now we're hiring we're hiring a new growth marketer, which is a really exciting position. I'm really excited for it. So the growth marketer, we're launching a new referral program at Flatirons. We're essentially going to give $5,000 to anyone that refers a client to Flatirons. So anyone that makes an introduction to Flatirons that later becomes a paying client, we're going to pay for just intros $5,000. So the growth marketing manager is going to help me get that program in front of every engineer and every designer in the United States. I want everyone to know that if they need help with software development, help with design, to reach out to Flatirons. So I'm really excited for that position. It's going to help us grow in 2025.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we have a number of development roles, a number of design roles, Node, Ruby. Mostly right now we're doing full stack. We also have product design, so UX and UI design. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And everyone that would be interested in those positions, we are gonna leave the links below the description. And regarding the interview process, a lot of people complain that they are not called to go to the next steps for the interview, like even the first steps, you know. And what do you think are the common reasons that candidates get disqualified or completely ignored when they upload their resume and apply for a position at Flatirons, for example?
At Flatiron, well, I think maybe not necessarily just at Flatirons, but I think a common reason might just be that the company isn't actively interviewing for the role anymore. I think a lot of companies tend to leave their roles open. And, I think that's something we try not to do at Flatirons, but I do think that when you don't hear back, it's not always necessarily that a company passes on you. Sometimes it is just that the company kind of has a job posting open that's not still active. That being said, I think when you get disqualified early in the process, it's not necessarily always about you. It could just be that we're not a great fit for each other. Maybe the company's not the right fit for you as well. So it's usually something like you just don't have like the number of years of experience, or you don't have, the level of English that we need, or something very, very basic, to meet the needs of the company.
Okay. And regarding the English level, that's something that people always ask me, because they think, as you can see, my English is not perfect, and I'm working in an international company, and I'm here at Boulder, Colorado, so, and people always think, oh, I have to have like a perfect English before applying for an international company. And here at Flatirons, you hired me beside the fact that my English is not good at all. So what is the level of English that you think is acceptable? I mean, should the person apply even with not a perfect English, or?
Yeah, they should apply even. So at Flatirons, I think the lowest that we accept is somewhere around a B. Is it B2?
Yeah,
B2 maybe.
B2.
It's you. That's probably like the lower end of what we accept. What I would say is, Paulo and I, we can talk and we get each other. Sometimes he doesn't get me every now and then. What would be a 5-minute conversation sometimes takes 6 minutes with us. And that's fine. It's like 20% less efficient to talk to Paulo than it is someone, that grew up in America. What we need to make sure at Flatirons is that our employees understand business requirements, and that there's not a miscommunication happening in the product development life cycle, where we're going to make mistakes in the software that we build or the software we design, because that can be an expensive process for clients. So that's what we try to screen out in our English screening, is making sure that we are able to effectively communicate, that you can communicate with people that speak English, and that there aren't going to be business requirements that are lost in translation.
Gotcha. And it's really fun because these days that I'm living with Mike here, I'm spending 7 days here at Boulder, and it's really fun because sometimes Mike look at me and he says like something like blah, 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 and then I sorry, and then he blah, 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 and then I just answer like yes, and and he have like, okay, this was a question. So I don't understand nothing sometimes. Even
you do a pretty good job. I think you do a better
okay.
job than you give yourself credit for.
Okay.
Also, if Paulo or really anyone on the team doesn't understand me, and this is something that to keep in mind. If you're speaking to me and you don't understand me, I know. So don't act like you know what I'm talking about if you don't know. Because you can see right through it. It's like you're saying yeah, and it's like, no, you don't get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a yeah with a dumb face. Right? Yeah, yeah, I think so. That's funny. And yeah, and also we received a comment in the last video that the person was saying that you have a batata in your mouth, a potato in your mouth, like you talk like blah, 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 like if you have a potato in your mouth. How do you reply that?
Okay, well, I will say I have a low voice, so there is a little bit of, it's not just every American. Mike Frederick, I myself, I do have a very low voice, and it's pretty monotone. So I think I am, in particular, for some people, a harder person to understand. That being said, I don't have any potatoes in my mouth.
Yeah, you speak like that. You speak like with the diaphragm, you speak different. You don't speak. I don't know. I think we speak like with the lung. Like more out. You speak like that. And let's get back to the main topic. And can you walk us through the typical interview process at Flatirons? What are the key steps, and how long does it take the entire process?
We try to be very efficient with our interview process. Usually it takes 1 to 2 weeks. So you jump on a call with someone from our HR team. You just have initial conversations. What are you looking for in your career? What's your background? We want to tell you a little bit about this role. Make sure that you're not going through a full interview process, a technical test if you're not even interested in what we do. So we want to make sure that we're a good fit for you as much as you might be a good fit for us so that we don't waste each other's time. That takes 15, 20 minutes. And then usually we do a second round that is a little bit of at least on the engineering side, the next round is going to be a technical test. Or not a technical test, just a technical interview. We're going to ask you a couple questions about if you're a Ruby developer. We'll ask you a couple questions about Ruby, maybe databases, maybe architecture. Just make sure, if you're a senior developer, that you have like the areas that we consider essential. So really, when we're asking questions in this technical, what we call a technical screen, it's really just, is it possible that this person could be a match? And then if you could be, we give you a technical test, and everyone gets the same technical test. So we evaluate everyone the same way. And really from there, it's like, talk to me, talk to a couple team members maybe, and then we write an offer.
Nice. And do you provide feedback for candidates after the interview process? And why do many companies typically avoid giving feedback?
I try to give feedback to anyone that asks me directly for it. I think, and I really like to give feedback to people that do our programming tests, especially. I think a lot of companies try to avoid any liability for reasons that they don't hire people. It's safer for a company to say nothing than to potentially put in writing a reason that they didn't hire you that could come back and bite them in the butt. I think a lot of companies probably just have a blanket policy of not responding just for that purpose. So they have their own, best interests at heart. It's not malicious in any way that they do that. It's just reality.
Nice. And could you describe the professional backgrounds of your team at Flatirons?
Sure. The average employee at Flatirons has 9 years of experience in their technical field. So if they're, a web developer, they have 9 years of experience as a web developer. That's on average. So we have some that are, 20 years, and we have some that are 4 years, 5 years on the lower end. So it really goes by role, I would say. On the product design front, most of our designers are full stack, so they're really good at UX and UI. We have a great product design team, and so we really look for people that can excel in all areas of web and mobile application design. If you go to the engineering side, I look at things differently for different roles. If you are on the sort of like junior mid-engineer side of things, I'm kind of looking for what is your potential, not necessarily how good you are right now. So you need to have a little bit of experience, but it's really more about how good do I think you can be. If you are a senior, we're going to get into things like, okay, mid-level engineers to me have to be able to build an application. Senior engineers have to be able to optimize an application. We're going to talk about database optimization and make sure that you can make a performant application that doesn't have architectural issues and stuff like that. And then on the lead engineer side of things, it's like, okay, we'll get into a little bit of solutions architecture and how well can you plan architecture for teams of people and sort of lead those teams.
Okay, and how does Flatirons approach mentoring and growing talent? Because there's a perception that many companies avoid hiring junior and entry level tech professionals, and do you hate junior professionals?
Do I hate junior professionals?
Why you don't hire them?
Oh, juniors.
Juniors, no, get out of here.
I love juniors. I think it's amazing working with juniors, especially juniors that are like really motivated, and you know that they're going to be. So every now and then you hire a junior, and you're like, oh man, that guy is going to be better than me, and maybe I should. How am I going to grow and make sure that I stay relevant?
It's like Gabriel Pereira. Right?
He's great. He's amazing. Tries so hard. Love Gabriel Pereira. I think, it's just about, for us, it's really about what do our clients want. And we at Flatirons, we have limited demand for juniors. People hire us mostly to build higher end software. Very professional solutions, and we're not the cheapest software consultancy. We have never been the cheapest software consultancy. We're not trying to be the cheapest software consultancy. So we try to be a higher end nearshore team, and so that is why most of our talent is either senior or at least mid level. So it's not really by design. It's just how the company is structured.
Okay, nice answer. And what types of projects does Flatirons typically work on? Are your clients more commonly large companies, enterprises, or do you partner with startups and small companies?
Yeah, great question. We do a lot of healthcare. Probably half of our business is healthcare. We're pretty evenly split, I would say, between large enterprises, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, and then early stage startups. We have a unique thing which I love. A passion project for me is Flatirons Fund. Flatirons Fund is where we basically exchange software development resources and teams to build MVPs in exchange for equity in high growth startups in the United States. We have a portfolio of about 10 startups that we've invested in. So I love working with startups. My background is in startups, and mostly I love startups because I love innovation and new technology and trying to solve new problems. But I also some of the enterprise work that we do and some of the larger companies, we work on software that impacts millions of people's lives, especially in healthcare, and it's really fascinating to see the level of impact that you can make in large companies and especially in healthcare. Yeah,
I heard some rumors that Flatirons Fund will invest $1 million in Job na Gringa.
Oh.
Just kidding.
I don't know who started that one. Might it have been you?
Yeah, maybe. And regarding the projects, what is generally a life cycle of a project at Flatirons, and how is the work for the development and the design? How they are planned?
The work for development and design. Well, the life cycle of a project is most of our projects are inbound leads. So people reach out to us. They need help building software. So we jump on a 30-minute call, tell them about Flatirons. It's a sales call. We try to understand what they're building, if it's a good technical fit and, budget and stuff like that. Then we have a follow-up call. We call this a deep dive. It's basically an hour long, maybe a few hours, where we get through, we try to do in our proposal process for projects 80-20. So we try to get like 80% of the details, and then we leave 20% for discovery. And with software engineering, the devil is in the details. So sometimes that 20% can be more than 20%. But we try our best to give people upfront in the discovery process an idea of what it's going to look like to work with Flatirons, a very realistic idea of their roadmap and the team structure and the pricing to do a project with us. And then we sort of move into discovery if we have to do a discovery to further refine the roadmap. So at this point, we're myself, solutions architect, project manager. We're starting to break things down into Jira epics and Jira stories. So in the sales process, we actually create the roadmaps, and then in the discovery process, we refine those roadmaps. So very much up front, we have the Jira roadmaps and the sort of the timelines for the project based on the team structure all laid out. All the stories are laid out in Jira. We have, these are all the design tasks that need to happen, and these are the timelines for the different designers that are on this project. So we are very, very detailed up front with projects. I find that in software consulting, you have to be planning is the most important part of a project for us. If we get the roadmap wrong in the planning phase, our clients are not gonna like us. Our employees are going to be stressed out because they're going to be going over deadlines, and no one's going to enjoy the process. If we get our roadmap right and we do planning right, everyone will be happy building the software. We'll be on time, we'll be on budget, and the clients will stick with us. At Flatirons, our minimum engagement is 3 months. Our average engagement is 3 years. So people stick with us. Nice. And we do that by being realistic with expectations and telling people the truth of how much things are going to cost and what they're going to be. So all of the design and the development is very, very much thought out prior to a designer and a developer actually being on the project. And so, from there, you're working, the teams are, you usually have a designer, some developers, a QA tester, a project manager, and the project manager has, knowledge transfer from our sales process and they have the Jira roadmap that has all of these details, and everyone's individual work is very heavily planned out and thought out sort of ahead of time so that we can try to stay on time for everything.
Awesome. And I'm not sure if this is only a perception of myself, but a few other people asked me about it, because there's no front-end specific jobs in the market. At least they are very rare. And all the positions we have opened nowadays, they are more focused on the full stack side, right? And how do you think about front-end versus back-end versus full stack, and why do we don't have any more like only specific front-end job positions?
Well, so at Flatirons, we do have dedicated front-end engineers, as you know, and I believe very much that there is a benefit to specialization, and if you have someone that spends 80% of their time doing back-end development, they're not going to be as good at React or the front end as someone that spends 100% of their time doing it. So I believe that, and I will couple that by saying, Flatirons, we care a lot about user experience and user-centered products. And so I find a lot of benefit to our React engineers and making sure that all the experiences that we publish are sort of polished. That being said, I think full stack engineering is a little bit more recession proof. So the past couple of years in tech have been weird. We've seen a lot of large companies do massive layoffs. The company has shrunk. A lot of good engineers are having a tough time getting jobs. I am optimistic that is going to change in 2025. But a lot of companies, when things start to contract like that, they want people that can do everything. It's safest to have someone that can build the full web application than to have people that can only build pieces of it. So I think when you sort of go through like a contraction like we've seen, you might see a little bit less interest in like that degree of specialization, and more people focus on people that can do the full end to end. That's at least my perception of it. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, I was one of those. I am a specialist in front end, and I was invited to learn back end and be involved with more things, so that I can be more flexible to be allocated in some other
Invited.
invited invited by Mike.
Forced.
Yeah, and regarding remote work, all the positions that we have now opened are remote, right?
Yes.
In your opinion, is remote work the future, or will it be forced back to the office?
That's a good question. I think so. Flatirons was remote from inception. We've always been a remote company. I love getting together in person, doing stuff like this. We are never going to be a primarily in-person company. I like the remote dynamic balanced with in-person sessions. That being said, I think there's a lot of value in being in person, and I think people should just expect that different companies are going to have different priorities in terms of whether or not they want to be in person or remote. And I think there's a lot of frustration in the market right now with companies going RTO. They want employees to go back to the office. And look, the truth is, these are companies that never wanted to be remote in the first place. They were forced to be remote. It wasn't something that they actually wanted to do. They had to figure out how to do it. If you want, stability in the remote job market, find a company that is truly, they embrace the nature of being remote, and they probably did before COVID. That's probably your safest bet, is if they were remote before COVID, they're probably going to stay being remote. And if they were not remote before COVID, they might go back in person.
Yeah, and that's the case of Flatirons, because it's really hard to for a small company to give like a visa sponsor for their employees. For example, I want to move here to Boulder. If you could have give like visa sponsors to me, I would be really happy. But this is really hard, and it's not something that will only. It's beyond your desire, right? Because you are limited to the amount of candidates, the pool of candidates that the government gives to the companies to move candidates to the US, right?
It's not beyond my desire. It is beyond my capabilities. I would, I love having people in person, and, I would love to support anyone that wants to move to the United States. We have very limited ability to do that as a company in the United States. It's extremely tough to get people into the United States. Usually you have to prove that the job that they do cannot be filled by someone else in the United States. Things like that, which with software engineering is tough to do. So it's very, it's immigration, like, it's very tough in the United States. It's a very hot topic right now.
Yeah. Regarding AI, what tools are you using nowadays, and when they will replace us? Will AI take our jobs, in your opinion?
Will AI? Yes, in my opinion, yes. Yes, AI will take our jobs.
Bye bye.
No. So. What are we using? My favorite two tools from the past 6 months are, one, CodeRabbit. So we started doing AI pull request reviews, And, we still do manual reviews with our developers, but having the AI there gets a lot of it done, and it does it well. It's really hard for developers to look at someone else's code and understand the full context of what did this person just do and what are these decisions that they made. You have a developer that's working on something else, and all of a sudden they're trying to learn all the things, and they have to get that task that they're working on done. And so this pull request is like, oh man, this is like major overhead. I have to read this thing and understand it. AI is really good at it. So I'm super pumped about that. So we're like leaning into that pretty heavily at Flatirons. AI note takers are amazing. Meeting notes are amazing. They're super, super useful for me. Making sure I get all the details, making sure we always have all the details of all the bids that we're going in for, all the different projects. And so those are my two new favorite tools.
Awesome. And a final question here for candidates who may not have an extensive international experience. What advice would you give them to succeed in interviews and thrive in a global company like Flatirons?
Another great question. Show up. Paulo is actually an amazing, amazing example of this. When Paulo submitted, I still remember his front-end tests. I read through it, and I was like, this guy put everything into this. And that's what you want. You want people that are going to show up. Don't do a million coding tests and go 70% with each. Just try really hard on a select number of them. And Paulo submitted his pull request. It was well tested. He built he had Storybook in there, and like a whole front end like design system. So I was like, okay, not only did he sort of do a pixel perfect job on our front end test, but he really sort of went the extra mile here, showed that he can, turn Figma designs into a component system in the code. And so, I think it's like that. It's the attention to detail, It's just like a lot of developers go like 80% of the way, and then they forget to like explain their solution when they submit it. And it's like that last 20% matters so much. Update the README, make me understand this thing, like make sure it's well tested, make sure it runs. You'd be amazed at how many people submit coding exercises with failing tests because they wrote the test and then they changed the code and then the tests aren't working anymore. And it's like, I get it. You like check that off your list. Lack of attention to detail. Go all in. That's my recommendation.
This is gold, pure gold. And I'm really surprised that you still remember because this was 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that I didn't sleep that night. I put everything. I put all my effort. I just did it like,
that's what you have to do. That's what people want to see. We want to know you work hard. We want to see your skills.
Yeah, that was really nice. And actually, I do have one more question. This one is good. What makes someone junior, a mid, a senior, or a lead developer?
I got into this a little bit earlier in our conversation. A junior to me is someone that has amazing potential. A mid-level engineer is someone that can build an application. A senior level is someone who can optimize an application. And a lead is someone that can plan, architect, and lead a team. So that is working with project managers, that's doing diagrams, and making sure that a project is staying on task. So yeah, that's like at a high level how I sort of bucket those 4 different roles.
Okay, just one more. Just one more. Why does Flatirons use Ruby on Rails and Node.js? And it's a pretty common, right? For startups and
What?
outsourcing company to use those stack.
This is a good question. I get the Ruby question a lot. Ruby is now a niche technology. Ruby on Rails, it's a somewhat niche technology. Ruby on Rails is also, in my opinion, it's one of the most mature and stable frameworks for building applications on the web. So here are my thoughts on this. One, it's really great to have specialization in engineering. There's a million JavaScript engineers. I like on the Ruby side, it's like I know most of them. So we're a more like close knit community on the Ruby side. We all use the same libraries. We all use the same frameworks. There are fewer Ruby on Rails engineers, but when you hire a Ruby on Rails engineer for your project, they already know the code base. They already know all the libraries. They've already used it. When you hire a JavaScript engineer, they're like, well, this framework is outdated because there was like 13 introduced in the last 2 months, and so no one knows any of this stuff. That being so I just think there are like pros and cons to each. JavaScript, I love JavaScript, especially TypeScript, because you can use it in the full stack. And so we want a little bit of both at Flatirons, one that's like stable and one that's more like cutting edge, and where there's developers are easier to hire for Node. And so that's sort of how I think about it, is like just having a little bit of both of those, the stability and then like the cutting edge stuff.
Awesome. I love how you answer the questions. Like the way you think and the way you are direct to a response, and because I am really prolix. Like I repeat myself over and over, and you are like really straight to the point. And is there something else?
I feel like I ramble too. I feel like
Oh, really?
At the end of the question, I'm like, did I just talk for like 5 minutes?
I'm not sure if this is an American thing, but I think people here are more direct to the point.
Maybe.
Yeah. And is there something else you want to share with people?
No, like Paulo said, we're hiring. We're hiring a growth marketing manager. We're hiring Node developers, Ruby developers, .NET developers, actually. And so if you are any of those things, please do apply. We're hiring for sales. I'm not sure if that would happen in Brazil, but we are hiring for business development representative for Flatirons Fund, to outreach to startups in the United States. So also interested to hear from people on that. Those are our open roles. We'll put it in the comments or something.
Yes, I will.
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to talk to all of you.
Awesome. Muito obrigado, pessoal. Essa foi a entrevista aí com o Mike, da CEO da Flatirons Development, e foi prazer. Thanks for your time, Mike.
Thank you, Paulo.
I really appreciate that.
All right, man.
That's it. Obrigado. That was good.
It feels pretty cool with the headphones on, right?